Don't touch it. That's it. Nail polish remover. A little pokey tool.
Oh, there's a tear in it. The wind started to get up slightly, and that is when I lost my phone into the marina. So now it's finally time that we left Ucluelet Smallcraft Harbour for our maiden voyage on our newly renamed Pearson 365 ketch, Steph'Ney Thames. And as we've never sailed before, then we aim to learn the ropes during the circumnavigation of Vancouver Island. Our first stop was going to be Bamfield. If losing my phone to the sea the day before we leave wasn't enough, since then our external hard drive also broke without action camera footage on, so please bear with us in this episode whilst we try and show you as much as we can of our journey with the footage that we were able to salvage from Bill's phone.
Still getting swirlers, mate, running around the edge of this little island in a plane. Pretty sure the tide's ebbing, so it'll be interesting to see what's happening through this channel here. I don't see it being that bad.
So Billy just mentioned to me that we're just over halfway on the way to Bamfield. We are on the engine. We've not been brave enough to put the sails up yet. There's not much wind, so we want good wind to try it for the first time. We're doing 4.4 knots. We're heading east at the moment. We're going to go between, where are we? Between the Faber islets and Weed Island. I don't know how it's said, but yeah. So we're just going to head towards that little channel there. The sun's coming out. I'm hoping to get a bit of wind as well to try the sails out first time. So we've had them out to look at, but we've not actually sailed. You see just on the shoreline at the top there, the white splashes. I think we're pretty sure they're orcas. Whoa. I don't know whether they're playing or making a kill maybe. After a few hours of motoring, we finally found the right wind to feel confident enough to put the sails up for the first ever time. Sailing! Doing it! Woo! 5.6, 5.9!
Oh, nearly got 6 knots.
Nearly! Let's do this.
Come on.
5.8.
Yeah, got it. 6.1, yeah, there you go. Nice. We're flying now.
Perfect. 6.1. How's it feel steering on the with the sails? Good.
Like
I think this is a bit of us, isn't it?
yeah.
5.7 knots, 5.9, 6.2. It's faster than when we're on the engine.
Right.
Yeah, swell. So we have just done our first small passage, I guess, on Steph'Ney Thames, and we have anchored in Bamfield, British Columbia, on Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did you think it went?
I thought it went well. Yeah, it was a little rough on it from yesterday's storm,
Mm.
and then the wind got up towards the end around midday. Provided good sailing for us. We was getting like 7 knots at one point.
Yeah.
The waves were pretty big, so tested the boat out, tested us out, didn't it? So
Yeah, tested the sails.
didn't get seasick.
No,
So
which was good because I didn't know how I'd be. I spent a lot of time in rowing boats, but it's quite different. We went out in rough conditions, but it's a bit different being on big rollers with a boat. So. Then one thing obviously it's all a learning curve, so we need to figure out when we fell in our head sail, it was getting caught at some point, so it wasn't quite furling all the way in.
well, we saw what we'd done, didn't
Yeah.
we? We hid behind an island to try and furl it in to keep out the wind. And we just kind of going to and from the wind, backwards and forwards in that channel bit, tucked in behind the island, trying to figure it out. But I think what happened was a line got loose, so the head sail dropped, and then it was kinking at the bottom. And then when we was trying to furl it in, it wasn't furling evenly all the way through. So you get halfway through, and then it kind of jam up, and it wouldn't furl. I thought it was one rope, removed that. Then I thought it was the actual line on the furler was getting twisted up, which it was. I untwisted it, and it still did it. So I thought, well, at the time, because it was pretty much in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
I just thought, let's wrap the sail up. I just got a rope, wrap the sail up for now, so that was out of the way, and then we used our main sail, and then used our engine to cut across the channel here to get to Bamfield.
Yeah.
Then we've looked at it some more, and I think that's what it is. So when the wind dies off, and tighten it up at the top there so it's all leave, and then we'll refurl it back in and then see if that helps it.
Yeah.
And go from there. So
we have had it out when it was in dock, didn't we? We did have it out and it filled back in fine.
We did notice at the bottom it had dropped a little bit, and at the time I couldn't really figure out why, but then I noticed the line up there, so I think that needs to be tightened to pull the furl up, and then to get it tight again. So, but yeah, we'll have a go. We'll test that tomorrow morning.
Yeah, when it's not so windy. And then we did our first anchoring.
Yeah.
Anchoring.
Yeah, crash course last night.
Yeah, Billy showed me last night. We in the 2-day lesson we had. We did do it on the guy's boat, but he's got a electronic windlass. So basically, you press a button and the anchor comes up and down. Whereas ours is manual, so you have a is it still a winch? I guess.
Yeah, it's a winch, but you just have to manually.
Yeah, you just have to
release it on the brake and stuff. Yeah, so.
Yeah, she showed me how to do that. Then when we got here, first time I tried it, I accidentally just brought the anchor back up again instead of releasing it down. So I tried it again and it's all good. So now we've got an app, haven't you? I think. Yeah, it was
Anchor Alert.
Anchor Alert. So we just put it on to test it. And basically it has you set on your phone on the map where your anchor is, and then tell it what radius you want. So if you say, I don't know, what would it be? We don't want it to go more than 40 feet away from the anchor, because that means the anchor's sliding on the floor or your broken anchorage. It will alert your phone. So we just put that on to test it out, and because it's quite windy, the boat is currently going around in a circle. Yeah. So we know it works because when it just touched that radius line of ours, it was like beep, beep, beep. So, and yeah, it's just nice to finally be doing this.
Right? Yeah, right. So, lots of work on the boat, and that was the forwards driving to Ucluelet, and
yeah.
Yeah, just being able to move forward with it, right, and start our next big adventure, really.
But I hope all our family and friends still enjoy it and tune in, and we don't know what this is going to bring us, so the anticipation is high. But it's good, and hopefully you guys enjoy watching this adventure as much as you did with our RV stuff as well. Yeah, Bamfield's pretty.
And we would go ashore, but the only thing is, it's going to be dark in a few hours, and our outboard, I think, needs no ignition coil. So we tried testing it a few days ago, and it wouldn't start. After looking into it, found that there was no spark. So yeah, we need to probably order one of them. I don't fancy rowing the boat in this wind.
Hi. They can't see us. And right on cue, the neighbouring boat came over. They offered to take us to land in their dinghy for a walk, and then invited us onto their boat for the evening and for dinner. We couldn't have thought of a more memorable way to start our introduction to the sailing community. So a big thank you to John, Cara and Dean for a wonderful evening. The next morning we set off from Bamfield to Port Renfrew. Again, we lost the rest of the day's footage, but there was a lot of motoring this day with big swells. Hey, so it is in the morning. So last night we anchored in just outside Port Renfrew.
Yeah, Thatcher Cove.
Yeah. And the journey yesterday was long, but it was good.
Bumpy.
It went well. Yeah, there was a lot of rollers and
Huge rollers,
yeah, so it was an experience. But I think it went well overall, really.
yeah.
Didn't it? So it was only our second day, so we did have to motor most of the way because no wind. So
Big waves, no wind.
yeah.
Worst combination for sailing.
So it's good. It's been a learning curve. It's good to be able to get like a feel, to get the feel of the steering and stuff is quite interesting, especially with the different swell.
And learning the navigation as well, right? On the GPS and stuff, and figuring out what routes to take and where to avoid the bigger waves and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've got that all working on there, haven't we? And the autopilot, we need to figure out how to get that on, because that would make long trips quite a lot easier. But in such swell as well, though, it's quite good for us to do it because
the autopilot won't keep up in the waves.
Yeah,
it's right where we are now, but as soon as it gets rough or windy, they struggle. So
came into Port Renfrew here, turned off the engine,
anchored up, didn't we?
Anchored up successfully.
Yep.
Turned the engine off, and I said to Bill, "There's still an engine sound," and he was like, "What?" I said, "I can hear a motor like woo, 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 like running."
So I poked my head in, didn't I? I was like, "That's the water pump." Switched it off, and I thought, "What's going on there?" Tried to tap, no water, and I'm like, "What the hell?" Because you noticed when we was on our way around, when the ways you went down into the cabin, there was a bit of water on the floor, and he was like, "Where's that from?" So just kind of mopped it up and carried on our way.
We thought it was that the because we have a fridge freezer unit that we just recently bought, but we just switched it from freezer to fridge, so we thought it was just it defrosting and the water had like leaked out, so we just thought it was that, didn't we?
Yeah, so we just mopped it up and then come in here, didn't we? And then put two and two together and realised that it had basically, luckily we got two big tanks, storage tanks on this boat. I only had one open. Luckily, because what happened was a pipe that connects onto the hose after the pump had disconnected somehow. It basically pumped our whole tank, one of our whole tanks of fresh water, basically into the bilge. And some of it must have spread it out and made its way into the cabin, and that's where the water come from.
Yeah.
When we stopped, I switched it, and I was started looking around, thinking, "What the?" And then started tracing pipe work, and then found that it popped off. So luckily, we had some bigger, beefier gear clamps on board. So just reconnected it, tightened it right up, and put the other tank on, primed the system, and it's fine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So.
For this trip at the moment, we did bring like separate containers for drinking water because we haven't had a chance to clean out the holding tanks yet. So, but it's all fixed, and you fixed it, and
yeah, and it happened quite early on in our. I mean, it's probably like a couple of hours in, wasn't it? 2-3 hours in.
Saw the water,
You saw the water, so it must have been. That pump must have been running for 6-7 hours, I guess, maybe 8 hours. Yeah, probably about 6-7 hours, dry, and didn't burn up.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, really.
Quite impressive.
Oh, very impressive.
And lucky.
Yeah, it was
very
lucky.
That it
well,
didn't
we'd be using the foot pump otherwise, wouldn't we?
Yeah, true.
So yeah, lucky it didn't burn out, and like I say, we primed it, and it works, and it's been working fine.
Yeah, so that's our first faux pas.
Yeah.
But it was fine.
So.
Yeah. And we got here, and obviously we've been letting our parents know when we leave and when we arrive and stuff, because it's our first like journey.
No signal here either, especially around that point there where we had no signal. We still don't have no signal here.
Yeah.
Luckily we have Starlink. But they go in and managed to send some messages.
Yeah.
Back home, let everyone know we're all right, we made it.
Yeah, there was a moment where we were like, oh no, we can't contact them. They're going to think we're lost out at sea somewhere. Oh no. But yeah, apart from that, and then yeah, it was our first night sleeping on the boat with a bit of rock, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little rolly in there, yeah.
But
It's beautiful, incredible.
Yeah, and
there's a little bit of backdrop there.
There's something, but we couldn't figure out what it was. There was something going, like knocking on the roof, and we thought it was a boat hook. But Bill got out in the night and to have a look, and we couldn't figure out what it is. So we're gonna investigate that. So the next time we have a rolly night, we went in front earplugs and tried sleeping with that to get rid of the knock. But it was a good sleep. I mean, all the fresh air. Oh my god, I've never slept so well in that sense. So.
Luckily, Sooke, our next stop will be nice and flat, it's shielded in there, so
yes, yeah.
Get a calm, peaceful night's sleep.
Yeah, and we're gonna head there now. Yeah, and we'll show you what happened with the water pump too.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the pump up in here for fresh water. Runs on, connects into a 90 that goes into a T here. It tees off to the main water as well as goes to the taps, but also to the hot water tank. There was this one here, ski clamp right here. Yeah, there's some tiny little one on there, and this pipe popped straight off, so the pump was effectively just pumping straight out that hose and filling up this area here.
Not ideal.
No.
But we found it, and at least it didn't happen on a long passage. So, yeah, there we go. So as planned, we set off for Sooke. It was another day of mainly motoring, which was absolutely fine until Billy saw the coolant temperature was rising higher and higher. So we took a beeline closer to shore and managed to anchor so Billy could check out the problem. Oh no, there's something wrong.
So once we got anchored into shallow water, I further investigated the engine and found that the coolant was leaking from the weep hole on the freshwater pump. I then removed the freshwater pump from the engine and closely inspected and found that the inner seal was leaking and that the pump would need a rebuild or replacement altogether.
As we had a non-functioning engine and no wind to sail, we were now stuck with no choice but to call the Coast Guard.
So contact your rescue and guys, phone number, rescue staff, the auxiliary fugitive, already done.
The Coast Guard put out a Mayday call for somebody nearby to tow us into Sooke, and luckily for us, SARS was up for the job. So as we waited patiently, this cheeky little otter came and stayed with us the whole time, maybe a little guardian angel to keep an eye on us. When the team arrived, they hooked us up and towed us the remaining 18 miles to Sooke Basin, dropping us off directly outside the marine shop who could help us with our fix.
A small flexible solar panel we have on top of our bimini. Going through these pulleys here, as you can see it backwards and forwards. It wasn't allowing us to go flush with the engine block.